Hey, this is Mike Hambright with the Flip Nerd VIP Show. Thanks for joining us again today. Today I have with me a very special guest. She's a good friend of mine. She's a superwoman. Patti Robertson owns lots of other businesses. I mean, it's incredible. I won't even read the list here. We'll get into it in a second. But she owns a number of different businesses as a true serial entrepreneur. And we look forward to learning about all of her stories and how she does it all. I don't quite understand. But before we get started, let's take a moment to RealtyMogul.com is an online marketplace for real estate investing, connecting borrowers and capital from accredited and institutional investors. Get a rehab loan fast and close in as little as 10 days. Rates start as low as 9%. We'd also like to thank National Real Estate Insurance Group, the nation's leading provider of insurance to the residential real estate investor market. From individual properties to large-scale investors, National Real Estate Insurance Group is ready to serve you. Please note, the views and opinions expressed by the individuals in this program do not necessarily reflect those of FlipNerd.com or any of its partners, advertisers, or affiliates. Please consult professionals before making any investment or tax decisions, as real estate investing can be risky. Hey, Patti, glad to have you on the show.
Hey, Mike. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for joining. So, this might be a 2-hour episode to talk about all the stuff that you do, but yeah, I know you're obviously a fellow HomeVestors franchisee, just like we are, and
right.
that's the main way I know you. But obviously, you own some Great Clips and some Hewitt Jackson Hewitt Tax Services.
Right.
You're involved with a Ria Club. You own rental properties. You have a property management business too, right?
Right.
Yeah, and probably some other things. You're a mother and a wife, and
correct.
Yeah,
yeah. The plate is full.
Yeah, I hear you. So, well, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about all the things you know, without getting into too much detail, just all the different things you have going on. And
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm Patti Robertson. I'm in the Hampton Roads market, and my husband and I consider ourselves sort of franchise junkies. We like that business model. I came from corporate America, and when he was very young, you know, high school age, he started interviewing people in his marina. He's a big boater, and asked them what they did for a living. And everybody who had big boats was self-employed.
Yeah.
So when my company offered, it was Jackson Hewitt, offered an employee purchase program. They allowed employees to buy franchises. We jumped on board, and I worked for the corporate office, and he ran our local franchise. We were 25 years old, newly married, had everything to gain, nothing to lose, had one baby at the time, and that's how we got started. So we took out huge amounts of notes and drove old cars and went to 10-cent shrimp night. That was the big night out. And that was the first one. Okay. Then that company got bought out by a huge franchise conglomerate, and my job went away. They moved out of state, and we had a little nest egg. They bought us out of our stock options. So we used that to start the Great Clips. So we had his and hers for a long time.
So they actually bought out your franchise, your location, you're saying?
No. They bought out the corporate office. The franchisor was bought out. They bought the employees out of our stock options.
I see. Okay.
So we had a 6-month-old baby at the time, and I had to figure out what to do. You know, I didn't really like the tax business from a day-to-day operation. I loved working for the corporate office. Yeah. But with a 6-month-old, I couldn't really go back to corporate America and start from the bottom, 60, 70 hours a week. So we met with a franchise consultant and ended up with Great Clips. So we had his and hers, and then built up to about 5 or 6 stores.
Say that again. What is it? What is his and hers?
His and hers franchises. So my husband ran the tax business, and I ran the Great Clips, and we were happy that way for a long time.
Yeah.
And then we saw the writing on the wall. You know, industries change. I went to a big conference, multi-unit franchise conference, with people who own multiple brands, and met some Blockbuster franchisees. And the Blockbuster story is a great story, but it was right about the time in the early 2000s when the internet was eating away at their business. Yeah. And they were, trying to come up with some strategy of what were they going to do. Yeah. And so we saw the similarities with the income tax and decided we needed to come up with a new plan. We needed to ultimately replace that revenue. We didn't start out, as young people deciding we wanted to have all these businesses.
Right.
But you have to prepare when the market changes, you have to shift.
Right.
So we decided we needed a long-term replacement of the Jackson Hewitt revenue, and met with with a franchise consultant again, and that's how we ended up with Homebusters.
Okay.
So that's
Okay.
kind of how it started. It was an
Yeah.
accident, sort of.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how life usually works, right?
Yeah.
It's not like you could have, at least for me and for most folks, it's not like you could. If you look back, you say this worked out exactly how I planned it. It just happens, right?
Right. Right.
So. So with Jackson Hewitt, so it's interesting you mentioned Blockbuster because they're based in my hometown. So I had and just from where I worked in my corporate world, there were a lot of folks that left where I was at and went there, which was from one sinking ship to another, maybe from Radio Shack to Blockbuster.
Right.
But at any rate, so has that actually happened with the Jackson Hewitts? I mean, obviously there's a lot more options being online, and has that impacted the business quite a bit over the years?
Significantly. The retail taxes, just the business model is diminishing.
Yeah.
And IRS numbers are out for the first part of the season, and individuals are filing their own returns a lot more than using paid preparers, especially in the lower end of the market.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, plus the tax code's gotten so much easier.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. People are not afraid of IRS is still putting people in jail, but people are not afraid of them like they used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and then talk a little bit about the Great Clubs, how you continue to grow that. I know before we started the show today, you said that you had just added a few more locations.
Yeah, we just bought 3 more. We're up to 11. Another franchisee in my market shifted into a different business, and so I bought her stores. We have 11 of those, and we are getting ready to build a brand new one tomorrow in the Norfolk market. So that's an awesome, awesome brand for people that want to diversify. They're one of the best franchise companies out there.
Yeah, that's great. And so at this point, when you're looking at business opportunities, are you trying to stick to all the businesses you have now? Or are you, from Homebusters speak, I bet you're probably, are you a high blue?
I'm high red and yellow.
Okay, I'm a high blue, so I have a tendency to do stuff like you're doing and get myself and bite off more than I can chew and get myself into a whole bunch of things. But as you look at growing, you're obviously still a young woman, and you guys have a lot of runway left. Are you looking to grow inside of those businesses you have now? Or?
Well, our goal is to scale down. Actually, we will likely keep the Great Clips forever. We're building a rental portfolio. What we're doing with our Homebusters franchise is building a rental portfolio. So we want to get to the point that what we have is our rental portfolio and our Great Clips, and that's what we will retire on.
Okay. And those, talk a little bit about, because yours is kind of an interesting strategy. You're using the Homebusters business to accumulate rental properties to help offset and shelter some of the tax burden, I suspect, right? Right.
And I just love the rental model. I didn't know that when we joined Homebusters, we thought we were looking for a business to replace cash income. And then quickly we learned that really the way you build wealth in real estate is owning it and having it free and clear. So we are diligently working on adding rentals.
Yeah.
We're still flipping and wholesaling, but that's not the goal.
Yeah. Well, and I think for a lot of us that are in this, even if that was the goal or you thought it was the goal initially, when you start to realize that, wow, I did really well on that, or I didn't, but I'm never going to make another dime off of that house. You start to have, I've talked about this a lot lately, you start to look back over time after you've been doing this for a while and have regret that you didn't keep more houses as rentals, right? Right. I think so too. Yeah. Yeah. And we're keeping as many as we can. Yeah. Yeah. So, and you run a property management business. We did. As well. Yeah, we were running our own, and when you have a lot of rentals, it takes staff. Right. I have a lot of other things I have to pay attention to, so I had to hire people to run that business. So it was just a natural progression. I ended up getting my broker's license, and it was just a natural progression to manage other people's too. We're really particularly good at property management. Right. Right, and it just kind of enabled you to scale up and add people to manage your own by managing other folks. So how many properties do you manage altogether? We're managing about 155 right now. Okay. And are you actively looking to grow that as well? Yeah, not just your own, but for other folks? Yeah, we are. Yeah, okay. We would like to use the economy of scale to draw a little bit of money out of that. Right. So talk a little bit about how do you do all this, Patti? How do you And you have kids as well. You have kids as well, right?
Yeah, I saw a thing on TV this morning about I think they called it low sleepers. Donald Trump, Martha Stewart. There's people that don't need a lot of sleep. I'm one of those. So
Okay.
I really do not require a lot of sleep. People get emails from me in the middle of the night and think that's crazy. But I work a lot and I like it. But I also have staff. So I've got people running the Great Clips. We've got people running the property management functions. My husband has staff overseeing the Jackson Hewitts, and basically we run the money. We make sure that that everything is funded and the advertising's going. We spend the money and manage the checkbooks, but other folks are typically managing the operational functions of all the different businesses.
Yeah, and some of that, I guess, is able by scaling up those businesses as well, right?
Right.
I mean, if you had one Great Clips, you wouldn't be able to afford having another layer of management, probably.
Exactly right.
Yeah. So have you found that you're able to put in place some sort of check and balance reporting that you get, and you can kind of understand what's going on in your business on a daily basis or a weekly basis just by using a dashboard or kind of some way to kind of keep a pulse on the business without having to go physically visit?
Yeah. Great Clips and Jackson Hewitt are both stellar reporters. Both of those franchise companies, the franchisors, just deliver us awesome tools for reporting and monitoring. And so the real estate is the harder, but real estate is pretty easy. Tenants call when there's a problem, you get a phone call.
Right.
So
on your property management side, how involved are you in that?
Pretty involved. I go to the office every day. We do have, I am right now would be the person doing acquisition of new houses, only because we haven't been focused on. That's the next position we're adding.
Yeah.
We have to. We haven't done a lot of marketing for that yet. So we just have brochures ordered. We're just getting ready to blow that up. So we'll add someone in that position. But I spend most of my time in real estate.
Yeah.
As opposed to the others.
Yeah, and it's a hard, I talk about this a lot. It's a difficult business to scale. And some of it is not lack of reporting or things like that. It's just that, when you buy a house or you sell a house, you're dealing with a different person every time. You're dealing with different issues every time. It's not like you're buying a house a month from the same person and you start to get in some sort of rhythm. It's just by design. It's a
lot of money on the line for a single transaction.
Yeah. A lot of emotions involved sometimes, and so it's difficult. So and so talk a little bit about, you kind of talked about how you're franchise junkies, and obviously you're big on brands and things like that. Why don't you talk about, in your experience, how you've grown, several different businesses now, the importance that you think brands or systems play in that? Yeah,
and I think each entrepreneur has to have their own expertise and decide where they want to spend their time. I like spending my time growing the business, not creating the business. So basically a franchisor delivers you, a good one, not all of them, but a good franchisor delivers you a store in the box. And, Great Clips, they drive the truck up and they open the doors and there's my store. I just have to put it together.
Yeah.
And they all you have to do is follow the system. I don't want to create the system. My job is just to make sure there's new customers going in the store every day.
Right.
And, that's what I like. But you have to choose a brand or choose an industry based on your skill set.
So the advice I think that a lot of folks get when they're trying to start a business or trying to transition out of the corporate world or things like that, or if you're my wife talking to me, is about focus. You need to focus. And I found a new friend in you, Patti, in that you have lots of focuses. But talk a little bit about how, for folks that might be listening that are interested in getting started, whether it's real estate or some other things. Obviously, our show is predominantly real estate focused, but also very entrepreneurial focused, is the importance of the balance between staying focused but also having some diversity. And is that something that tends to come after time? Okay, now we're going to bolt this on. Or
diversity is key. You look at people who you've seen them, are in one industry and the industry tanks, or they have all their eggs in one basket. Another big lesson we learned early on, we lost a lot of money in a Ponzi scheme. And when that happened, we learned that we really have to diversify, our income and our assets. I think one thing that people do when they're starting out is they get analysis paralysis. You know, they study, consult, they join mentoring teams, and they never launch. You know, they never pull the trigger and open the store or buy the first house and you know, and the best way to learn something is by doing it.
So talk a little bit about the importance of specifically like franchise systems. You talked about it a little bit, but because you know we obviously we're growing from the Homevestors side. I don't talk a tremendous amount of Homevestors on the show, but we're Homevestors folks here, obviously, so we won't deny that. But just the importance of a franchise system, the good and bad, but just the fact that there is a system and you can surround yourself by people that are doing things the way that you aspire to do them or want to do them. Talk a little bit about how that comes into your thinking when you're looking at new opportunities.
Yeah. There are good, just like within a business, there are strong people and weak people. There are good franchisors and weaker franchisors. And the people with the best systems, I think, have franchisees who stay around the longest. Well, I think one of the biggest benefits of being in a franchise system is that you get, if I have an issue, Mike, I could call you and you don't have any bone in my market. So you're going to give me honest advice. You have some desire to help me succeed. And as much as the people in my own market say they want me to succeed, there's always going to be a built-in amount of competition with people that you network with in your own market. I think it's very valuable to talk to people who are in the same field and same company who are all over the country. That's one of the biggest benefits of being in a franchise company is the system of franchisees you have all over the place doing the same thing, building the same brand.
Right. And I think it's just natural in real estate. And that's part of what I'm trying to do with this show, too, is bring people together, allow people to learn from one another. But generally speaking, a lot of folks don't talk to one another in real estate investing just because they tend to be very local. So the person that they would talk to is in their market. And those folks, everybody sees each other as a competitor. So they just don't. In fact, there's kind of a funny saying that if you talk to another real estate investor and they tell you to do something, do the exact opposite because they may be trying to mislead you. So but that's interesting. So how why don't you tell us a little bit about the Ria Club that you're involved with as well?
Yeah, we have a great club here in Virginia. Most of the Ria clubs are for-profit clubs. And I think, around the country, at least 50% of the clubs are for-profit clubs. And those are run a lot differently than non-for-profit clubs. I would encourage new folks that are starting out to find out, is your club for-profit or not-for-profit? Because the goals of the clubs are different. Ours happens to be a non-profit club. It's called the Tidewater Real Estate Investors Group. It's the oldest club in Virginia, been around for about 40 years. Wow. And I took it over actually I'm delegating, Mike. I just passed the hat to a new president, but I was president of the club for the last 4 years, and we doubled the size. We went from 130 members to 250 members.
Okay, that's fantastic.
Yeah, and very active. We have about 100 people show up at a meeting, and it's all nonprofit. Everybody's a volunteer. It's just a great club.
So talk a little bit about that, because I believe that Ria Clubs are the backbone of the real estate investing community. I'm a huge proponent. For those that have only seen our show or listened to the show and haven't actually been to flipnerd.com, you'll see that one of, I think, 4 tabs across the top is an REI Club Finder, just because I believe it's a big part of getting started and maintaining your role kind of in this industry. But I always ask people when I interview them, when I interview Ria Club presidents or other folks that are involved, is what's the right balance between education and selling in there? And in all honesty, and you probably know this, even the clubs that are for profit, it's hard to make that a profitable business in and of itself. I mean,
I think that's why. What's difficult in the for-profit clubs, it's almost always about selling because they are for-profit. Whereas the nonprofit clubs just have to carry their expenses. So I think it's a much better balance of education in a nonprofit club.
Okay.
I know in our club we have paid speakers come in twice a year. The rest of the time it's local education or networking. Yeah.
Okay. And so talk a little bit about your club specifically, a little bit more, some of the education. Tell us more about what's typical of you. Have volunteers that are sponsors or board members of the club that are primarily doing the education, providing education?
Well, no, we find experts in the community, so we'll have might have a panel of experts. We have some of the same folks that you have. You've had some of our Mid-Atlantic IRA has been a speaker. National speakers, Jeffrey Taylor is in our backyard, MrLandlord.com. He'd be another great guy for Flipnerd.
I'm trying to get him. You need to go plant a seed.
Yeah, I will. I'll give you his cell phone number.
Yeah. Okay.
And local, we just had my closing attorney, LT Kaplan, just did a session this month on basic contracts, purchase contracts, and assignment contracts. He gave out a free contract to everybody in the room, and people could bring clauses. We try to make it interesting and have a balance of material for beginning folks, but also for experienced folks. And we find when you're running a club, you have to address both audiences, and you get depending on the topic, we get a different audience at the group.
Sure. Yeah. It's a really content-driven, you can see the quality of the experience based on the quality of the content, right?
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, and Patti, obviously we know that you're a wife, but you're a mother as well, right?
Yeah, I've got two boys. Yeah.
Do they know you or?
They do. They're teenagers though. They're older than you, so 15 and 17. They don't really want to be around me anymore. Yeah.
Well, my son's only 6, and I think he's quickly getting there. So at least around me, he wants to be around. He's a mama's boy. So.
Yeah. That'll change.
Yeah. So what do you think is going on with the real estate market these days? Where do you see things going over the next couple of years?
Oh, it's getting tough. It's getting tough to buy houses. Although the resale market is strong. We're in a military market, so we don't see the effect. That we didn't see the downturn as much as the rest of the country.
Right.
But houses are selling. There's a lot fewer houses on the market for sale.
Yep.
It's from a landlord standpoint, it's getting harder for me to find them. I'm finding finally rents are squeezing down a little bit. And since I've been a landlord, this is the first time I've seen that happen.
You're seeing rents go down.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we do a lot of Section 8.
Okay.
The government funding budgets have been cut. Not all of our cities, but some of our cities. We're feeling a little squeeze at the lower end of the market.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We haven't quite seen that here, but I think that's obviously very market specific.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I think is interesting is a lot of the benefit that we get out of being organized and running any sort of volume is you can start to get a little bit efficient. What's interesting about this market is I think that real estate investing is kind of an inefficient marketplace. And that's kind of why there's not an MLS for investor deals per se, unless you work the MLS. Does it feel to you with technology and things? I always feel like the real estate industry has been a laggard to adopt new technology, but does it feel to you like it's starting to get more efficient?
Well, I don't know. We have a lot of competition in the wholesale market with investors in this market, and they're pretty tech savvy. They are, strong competitors from an internet standpoint.
Yeah.
But there aren't any comprehensive tools. Home Depot is starting to come out with some, and people are trying, but there really are no comprehensive tools for real estate investors nationwide, other than the auction sites.
Yeah. What's interesting is the people that have the ability to create those tools usually would just exploit those opportunities themselves.
Right.
There's more money to be made because of big ticket items in
right.
finding a way to use those tools to buy more houses themselves than to say, pay me $39 a month and you can have access to it.
Right.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. And so are you seeing, how vulnerable are you to where you're at there to changes in the just with the being so focused on the military, serving housing for military, how vulnerable are you in market? There's markets like that all across the country.
Yeah.
That if they decide to move a base or something like that,
it would be if they decided to move a base, it would be a huge blow to our market.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It petrifies the market.
Yeah, and what do you think about, because that's happened in some markets. I mean, in Texas, I don't have properties there, but they made a bunch of changes with Fort Hood, which is a massive base. And so what would you say to investors that are in military-based markets to kind of protect yourself, or how to kind of think about those issues if they come up or if they could come up?
That's a really good question. Very few of my tenants are military tenants.
Okay.
We choose to focus more on, about 25% of my tenants are Section 8, a significantly greater number than our military tenants.
Okay.
So maybe shifting your market and going either a little higher. And we have NATO here. We do a little bit of renting with NATO. I don't know that there is a way to infiltrate or really protect yourself against that loss.
Yeah. I guess unless you have properties outside of your market, but yeah, I think you're kind of like me. We really prefer to keep our rentals close to where we live, even though we don't manage ours, and we probably never will. Yeah. But it's nice to know that they are here.
Right.
I don't know. We had an out-of-state property one time, and it was just a nightmare to deal with.
Yeah, that scares me too. And our numbers are great in this market. I can buy low, I can rent high, so there's no reason for me to go to another market.
Right. So one of the things I want to talk to you about, Patti, is just being a woman serial entrepreneur. Why don't you tell us more about that? And I will say I had another guest on recently. The show hasn't come out yet, who is a real estate attorney that I know very well, and she talked a lot about there aren't a lot of women in real estate investing, and she's actually formed a real estate investing club for women, and has a couple hundred members actually. So
we have those here too.
That's great. So just talk a little bit about kind of for any women that are listening that have an interest in real estate investing, and what, right or wrong, tends to be a male-dominated kind of industry or business, kind of how they could maybe crack into that and not be intimidated by a bunch of scary guys. Yeah,
it is a little strange. The first time I went to a homebuster convention, it was odd. People think of real estate as being a female-dominated world, and in the agent world, it really is. Most real estate agents are female, but in the real estate investing realm, most people are men. It's a little bit bizarre.
That is weird.
And there's no reason. Women do an excellent job. I think they going on a job site, the construction site, the guys are happy to please us. I don't see it as really a male or female issue. It's anybody can do it.
Right. And so what do you think holds some women back? Is it the fact that it's a bit of a hustle business, and you may not, we tend to be in a business where if an opportunity comes up, no matter what day of the week or time of the day, we have to go, we have to kind of get on it. I mean, do you think it has something to do with the inability to kind of totally plan what your day looks like? Or I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here.
Yeah, I don't know. I think women tend to go where most people go where the herd is. Yeah. And most women are in the traditional real estate realm of being agents. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the reason. It's just they're not breaking out of the shell.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, so Patti, anything else you want to share with us about what are you going to do from here? You've got a full plate.
Yeah, we are aggressively looking for rental financing now. I really like the podcast you had this week on with one of the lenders. Mm-hmm. So we're looking for medium to long-term financing for rentals so that we can build that portfolio. Once you have a bunch of rentals, that becomes the harder part is funding them. And we're very focused on paying off debt. So we got the debt schedule on the wall, and we're checking it off, and because building business creates a lot of debt. So
absolutely. I haven't had them on yet, but have you talked to B2R?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, and we the local banks will do the same thing for cheaper.
Okay.
So we just did a big 18 property refinance with a bank called Stellar One in our market.
Okay.
It was if anybody's looking for a bank to do refis, they were great to work with. You have to own the properties a year, but they did it for 1 point. We got a 5-year note amortized over 20 years at 4.5%.
Oh wow!
For 1 point.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And they only lend in your market there? Or?
No, they'll lend any place. Called Stellar One. Yeah.
Anywhere in the country?
I believe so. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'll have to get that connection from you. So.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Patty, I appreciate you being on today.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I love the show.
I appreciate that you're a fan. You keep giving feedback, and I was like, well, why don't you just come on the show?
Yeah, I love the show. I've been promoting the show. It's a great show. Everybody should watch it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's, I don't really have anything to sell. We're just kind of introducing people, and it gives me a chance to play hooky from my real job or jobs a little bit. And
the vendors you've had on, or most of the vendors you've had on, have been my vendors too, and they're great. They're great folks, and it's good to get the word out about them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks for being on. I'm sure that we'll be talking again soon.
Thanks so much. Have a great week.
Appreciate your time.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Are you a member of FlipNerd.com, the most robust real estate investing platform in existence, where you can find off-market wholesale deals and great vendors literally in your market? You can get access to advice from experts and learn about local clubs and events right in your backyard. If not, please visit FlipNerd.com and register for a free account. You can register in less than a minute. It's pretty much the coolest site that's ever existed in the real estate investing industry, so get on over to FlipNerd.com.